It's Monday, December 4th. I'm Geoff Schwartz. It's Geoff Schwartz is smarter than you. We're on YouTube and we're on Twitter and we're on your favorite podcast platform of choice. We're brought to you by PrizePicks. It's a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. Go to PrizePicks and use code GSSY for a first deposit match up to $100. You pick 2 to 6 players. If they will go more or less than the PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. We're making our selections for the Monday Night Football game between the Bengals and the Jaguars. That is tonight. We will do PrizePicks at the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. And as usual, on a Monday, we're recapping the National Football League. We're recapping what was a wild weekend of college football. It was chaos. Finally happened as the playoff is set. Bowl games are set, which is such a different vibe now than when we grew up watching bowl games. Gabe, transfer portal today is open and wild in college football. We're gonna cover it all. And Gabe, it was a okay sports weekend for me. I mean, both my teams lost, but it wasn't like the end of the world. How was your weekend?
Well, none of my teams played, so what do I care? Although I guess as a fake Chargers fan,
I don't know if the Chargers actually. If you win 6-0, I don't think you actually played the game. I will say, congrats though. Your Jets look to be going back to Zach Wilson, a real functional organization and franchise. So, congrats to the Jets. On that decision.
The one thing Zach Wilson has proven to be great at is generating memes, hilarious ones. A lot of dirty stuff out there about him. But I don't want to talk about Zach Wilson, the Jets, the quarterbacks. I don't want to talk about the Chargers and the fact that they covered a 5.5 point spread by winning 6-0. I like that. That's fun. But I don't want to talk about it. I only want to talk about college football for at least the first half of this show. I'm happy to see you wearing your Ducks shirt out of respect for a good season, but a season that came up short. The only thing anyone has to take on today is Florida State being left out for Alabama. I have feelings on it. Who cares? What's your take on the takes on the takes?
Well, the spiciest take today that I saw was from Stephen A. Smith. Does Florida State get in the playoff if Deion Sanders is their head coach? Now, Deion Sanders will not be 13-0, so the answer would be no. But if he was 13-0, they absolutely would get into the playoff if Deion Sanders was their head coach. Nonetheless, for those who have missed it, that don't follow college football, there's a 4-team playoff in college football. 4 teams make the playoff, and this is the 11th year, I believe, of the system, okay? The first 10 years, everything was fine. The top teams, Gabe, all got in, right? Because we normally ended up with just like 2 undefeated teams, and then you have a Power 5 conference champion, it's 1 loss in the SEC, boom, you're in, right? The Pac-12 was down for all these years. The Pac-12 wasn't even a consideration for most of the years. There's 5 power conferences. The Pac-12 has only been in the playoff now 3 out of all the years since 2014. And this was the year, the first one, the last year, the 14 playoff, where we finally had a situation that was complete chaos. So Oregon is a big favorite loss to Washington, which guaranteed Washington's spot in the playoff. Georgia lost to Alabama, which then threw things into a flux because now Georgia's 11-1, not a conference champion, but had won 29 straight games to 2 championships in a row. Alabama, 12-1, conference champion now. Georgia's 12-1, not 11-1. Georgia's 12-1. Bama's 12-1, conference champion. Texas blew out Oklahoma State. Texas 12-1, Big 12 champion, who beat Alabama in week 2. Okay. Florida State, 13-0. They beat Louisville this weekend, 16-6 in the AC Championship game. Florida State without their starting quarterback, Jordan Travis. That's the landscape, okay? So, Michigan's in undefeated. Washington's undefeated. The question becomes, what is 3, 4, and 5 essentially, right, Gabe? Is Texas in because they beat Alabama? To me, you have to honor head-to-head, even though I think Alabama's better than Texas now. If that game was played again, I think Alabama would win that game. But if you don't honor head-to-head, what's the point of playing the games? There's no point, right? You have to honor the head-to-head. So if Texas is in, which they were, number 3, who's left? Alabama or Florida State? And the discussion becomes, is it best? Is it most deserving? Or is it a combination of both? The committee has said, Gabe, this season, very clear on this. Most deserving is not a term we use. We use best. Who are the best 4 teams? And as currently constructed, Alabama is better than Florida State. But I can also make the argument that Georgia's better than Florida State. and Ohio State's better than Florida State, and Oregon's better than Florida State. Like, better is all relative, right? Because they don't have their quarterback right now. So Florida State was left out of the playoff as a 13-0 Power 5 conference champion. I think it was the wrong decision, Gabe. I think if you win all your football games in a Power 5 conference, you should be in the playoff. What you're doing here is punishing one player. You're punishing their quarterback, Jordan Travis, who got hurt. And you're saying you're the reason why your team is not in the playoff, because all they did afterwards was win. So everyone else continued to play well, and the factor is that your quarterback's not in. Now, Gabe, I think it's difficult to say that Florida State would have gone blown out in the playoff. Now, I think I would have taken Michigan to beat them if they were the 4 seed, but you give Tate Rodemaker an entire month with that roster, and you can't tell me they have some offense against Michigan in a playoff game. Like, you don't give them the chance to even do that. I think they earned it. Look, life's not fair. If life was fair, Oregon would have beat Washington, and Chiefs would have beat the Packers this weekend. It's not fair. So I'm not saying that it's unfair to not put them in, but I think that they earned the right to be there by going 13-0. And now, obviously, the 12-team playoff, this will never be a problem ever again. But I think they got it wrong. Alabama's better. I'm not disagreeing with that part of the decision, but I think they should have rewarded a 13-0 Power 5 conference champion.
Well, needless to say, as a guy who, going into each season we've done this show together, I've sarcastically pointed out that we could just hand it to Alabama or Georgia and be done with it all. I still feel annoyed by that overall sentiment, and the logic that you're saying the committee applied, where it's the best, not the most deserved. Fine, then put Georgia in. Like, if we're just going to say it's the best teams, then give me the best teams. Yeah. Like, they aren't consistent with it, is my point.
No, because it's 13 individuals. Like, there's no rhyme or reason, right? It's 13 individuals. I think that's the hard part about this decision. You only have 4 teams, right? Instead of 12 teams. And that's why they have to make these hard decisions. And again, they have said best will reign supreme. And the thing about it that's, I think, I'm not sure this makes it worse or better, but I'd put money on Alabama doing the whole thing right now. So is that better that they might win the championship? They made the right decision. We know that in 2014, Ohio State beat Oregon with a third-string quarterback, but they also won their bowl game, their conference championship game 59-0. So they looked exactly the same with a backup quarterback, really the third-string quarterback in the game. So I just feel I feel the worst for Jordan Travis, the Florida State quarterback. Like,
he put it out there too. He's clearly feeling bummed about it on Twitter, saying he wishes he'd been injured sooner so people could see there about a lot more than him and his contributions at quarterback. It's kind of a strange thing to tweet, but I understand his point.
Yeah, because again, you're essentially saying you're the reason why, right? You're the you're the reason why you're not in the playoff, which I think is wrong.
Yeah, well, he's the reason why they beat LSU. He's the reason why that they were in consideration in the first place. So, I don't think he should be too hard on himself. Let me ask you this. You talk about sort of counterfactuals and, if Alabama now just wins the whole thing, will the committee say, see everyone, we got it right? If Georgia, stomps Florida State in the bowl they're playing, will everyone say, see? Obviously they couldn't.
Well, that bowl game, that Georgia Florida State bowl game is no one wants to play in that bowl game. That's going to be it's going to be a miserable bowl game.
Well, I think you got some kids on Florida State who might want to try to win that game. I don't think anyone at Georgia cares. So who knows what it proves, but.
Yeah, that's fair. But with the opt-outs now, who's going to play. I don't know. In these games.
Well, I don't know either. So, So a lot of fun points were being made. It was, if nothing else, a chaotic and ridiculous day on Twitter or X. And you saw a lot of people sort of drop their principles and just root with their heart. So give me a few predictions then. You sort of tipped your hand a little. You think Alabama might actually be the best team left in the field. How do you see this playing out?
So I think Washington beats Texas, and then I think Alabama beats Michigan, Alabama beats Washington is my guess. I think the Alabama-Michigan game is going to be a Michigan win. I feel comfortable. And I think Texas can totally beat Washington. Washington just sort of has this mojo going right now where they've won 21 straight games or 20 straight games. They've won 11 of those games by 8 points or less, and they've won 9 straight games now by 10 points or less. So they have some sort of that doesn't happen in college football, man, to win that many games in a row by less than 10 points. I mean, for example, I looked this up the other day. Georgia, now including the game on Saturday, is 41-2 in the last 3 seasons, which is insane. 41-2. And they played now 6 games that finished within 8 points, and they're 5-1. The Bama loss being the first one they lost. Like Washington's played 11 of those games in 20 games. Georgia played 6 of those games in 43 games. Like, most college football teams that are good blow everybody out. And Texas, by the way, is sort of in that same boat. Texas this year had a bunch of games where they sort of kept it close and ended up winning. So I'm curious. I need to talk to Hank because I will be rooting for Texas on January 1st. So I don't know, like, do I have to get I hate Washington. Do I need like a cowboy hat? I have cowboy boots, but do I need like a cowboy hat? Do I have to like hook 'em horns? Like, what do I do? Do I have to be a Matthew McConaughey fan now? I'm not necessarily not a Matthew McConaughey fan. Like, do I have
how hard is it to be a Matthew McConaughey fan? That seems easy.
What do I have to do? What music do I have to listen to? That's a sort of food I got to eat on January 1st.
That should work for you, big boy. I think the tri-tip and all the stuff you like to eat in Austin, Texas should go just fine with what you like to eat.
Can I give you the oddest bowl game, in my opinion, of all time? The oddest January 6th bowl game. So we know that they have the playoff games and the January 6th games, like the Fiesta Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Citrus Bowl. I think it's a New Year's 6th game. Which one? Cotton Bowl. I think it's a New Year's 6th bowl game. And so they're typically the best of the rest, right? Is what they are. Well, a group of 5 team gets to be in one of those games every year. And this year it is Liberty against Oregon. I don't know of a weirder New Year's 6 bowl game than that one we've ever had. It just makes no sense why that matchup is here.
It's a clash of many things, not just football in that game.
I'm looking at it right now at some of these matchups, and there's not really a weirder one we've seen in like the time we've been New Year's 6 bowling. It's just like it makes okay. Here's a weird one. It was a Wisconsin Western Michigan New Year's 6 bowl game in 2016 in the Cotton Bowl. That's a weird matchup. That's a little odd. But yeah, most of these are not that out of place. Liberty ranked 23rd, and Oregon is certainly out of place. So, we'll see what happens with bowl season.
I don't have any big Liberty takes, but I gamed out what I would have assumed a 12-team playoff would have looked like if the conferences hadn't voted it down this year. Florida State probably wishes the ACC had a different stance on that, by the way. Liberty probably would have been the 12 seed. And it would have been fun to see Liberty go against, in the first round, go against Georgia with something on the line, just to see what that could look like. And that might affect these conversations about undefeated teams from lesser conferences moving forward. But
Gabe.
Yeah.
Georgia would have won that game 56-14.
14. They get 14 points off Georgia?
We don't need to see that game. That's my point about the playoff. Like, I don't need to see that game. That's not a game I need to watch.
That's a closer game than the national title was, wasn't it?
Yeah, 56-7, yeah.
So, way to hang in there, Liberty. All right, so let me ask you this. You don't have a lot of faith in Washington, but you've admitted your bias. They keep winning close games. At times, though infrequently, they've looked like they have a defense, not when it matters most. But they have the best quarterback out there, unless you want to take the Jalen Milroe side. Does it matter that they have the best quarterback of the 4 teams?
Well, that'd be the reason why they win. Well, that'd be the reason why they win, is that they have that quarterback, right? So it absolutely does matter that they have that guy, because they wouldn't win otherwise. And so, no, it's a great benefit to have Michael Penix. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm jealous of all the people who sort of become college football watchers right around New Year's and, certainly haven't learned anything about Washington football until now. And they're all going to get to experience for the first time what we've been chuckling about, or at least children like myself have been chuckling about for a few years now, which is the quarterback's name is Penix? Penix?
I said the other day,
They're going
like,
to get to have that smile.
I said the other day, like, you can't stop Penix, and people just like when he's on, and people were just crushing me on Twitter about it. And I was like, I thought I spelled it wrong, and I did not, thankfully. So no spell check issues, nothing like that. What bowl game is USC in?
I forgot which one. I think we got Louisville, right?
It's Holiday Bowl, no Caleb Williams, I think.
Well, that's one thing I did want to ask you. I haven't heard the latest on that. Is whether there is actually a reason why Caleb should play.
He's not playing.
I guess. Okay, so yeah.
Look at Riley say he's not playing. Look at Riley say he's not playing. And so the bowl games are so interesting because the transfer portal opened up today. So for those who are living under a rock, if you listen to my show, I think you follow college football. Maybe you don't. Welcome.
It'd be weird if not. Yeah.
And the transfer portal is players starting today can officially put their name in to transfer. If you have not transferred before, you get one free transfer. If you want to transfer again, you have to be graduated to grad transfer, right? And so it opens today. But the thing about it, Gabe, is like if you're a bowl team, you're going to have players who transfer out. And this is a situation like in Oregon State that has a bowl game with an not interim coach, but a new coach in Trent Bray with both their quarterbacks who are transferring out. So you're playing your third string. You have a situation where UCLA, has quarterbacks leaving. Like it's a weird spot to be in if you're some of these teams that have players that are leaving your roster that you expect to play in a bowl game that now aren't, especially the quarterback position. Oklahoma, Dylan Gabriel's not going to play in the bowl game. He's in the portal. Unless, of course, look, these guys can come back, Gabe, so they can come back and if they decide to not go out anywhere. But now teams are looking for other guys. So it's a weird dynamic in these bowl games, the quarterbacks and who's playing, who's not playing. I mentioned the Oregon Liberty thing. Like, how many Oregon guys are going to play in this game? Bo Nix said he will, which is not surprising for his personality, but still doesn't need to play in this game. So I'll still watch them, but yeah, it's going to be tough to have rooting interest in them because it's tough to wager on them. Like wagering them is just, God bless you if you wager. The only wager I like so far, but I'll give you one, actually, Arizona to win and cover against Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. I think it's the Cotton Bowl they're in. Alamo Bowl.
Well, if you got it before we learned Oklahoma's quarterback's leaving, then yeah.
Well, number popped today. It's 3. But Jackson Arnold is going to play probably quarterback. So
yeah. Yeah. Let's shift over to the NFL because I think there's more. We got about a month left to speculate about the national championship and where all these guys end up. And I will want your takes on some realignment stuff. And there's plenty to do in December. But let's go back to the weekend. I could try to tease you a little bit and talk about the Chiefs, and that was kind of a mess at the end of the day yesterday. But I think it's probably more important overall to the shape of the league this year to talk about that Niners-Eagles game. I don't know how much of it you got snap by snap, but I think we're done with the Brock Purdy is or isn't good. Like he's the MVP frontrunner right now. And let me just read you a couple stats here. The best team in the NFC, the Niners, they have beaten the Eagles by 23 points, beaten the Cowboys by 32 points. The Lions only have one win against a team with a winning record, and the rest of the NFC is like 500 at best, basically. So are we like ready to just accept reality and say that the Niners and Brock Purdy are clearly the best team? Because I thought it was the Eagles until this weekend.
Niners fans aren't going to like this, but I would say that if they meet again in the postseason, I would not expect them to blow the Eagles out, put it like that.
It's not really what I asked, though. Are they the best team?
I think so, but when they meet again in the postseason, if the game's in the Philly, the line is probably nearly the same, maybe less. People have a hard time sort of putting that in their brains, but the Eagles were in a prime spot to get their doors kicked in, essentially, right? They had played the Chiefs in Monday Night Football. They had played the Bills in overtime. They had played 50 more plays than the Niners had the last 2 weeks. Niners were off a Thursday night game. The Eagles, by the way, are playing 2 straight teams off on Thursday night games. They get 10 days to prepare. Niners, and they play the Cowboys, who just played Thursday night. So they play two straight teams getting 10 days rest. The Niners have been circled this game for, since this schedule came out, right? This is the revenge spot. They beat us last year. We thought we could beat them with Brock Purdy. I mean, the games even look similar. Like the idea that this now validates the thoughts about last year. Like, no, it doesn't. The Niners were keeping it close last year, but they weren't dominating the game like they did today. But what this does put to rest, I think, is the Brock Purdy thing. We're like, he's good. Is he the MVP? Maybe. I actually think Tyreek Hill's the MVP. If you're asking me, like, I don't know if he'll get the award. Brock Purdy's so interesting, man. If you were to draft quarterbacks right now, where would you draft Brock Purdy?
Who's my coach?
Well, of course, that's part of it. Just like a generic coach and team, he'd be drafted like 12th at best.
Well, so all right, so let's do it. Not to talk about them. I really don't want to talk about them, but they definitely don't have a quarterback, and they definitely do have a roster and a coach that most people seem to believe in. Let's take the Jets. The Jets have to draft a quarterback from existing NFL quarterbacks. You're saying how many guys go ahead of Brock Purdy?
Yeah, so you'd have
Pat, obviously.
You've had Mahomes, you'd have Herbert, Allen, Lawrence, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott. Is Kyler Murray
starting to hit them? No, I think Trevor and Dak. These are the guys.
I'm sure we're missing someone. Dak is playing really very well this season.
I understand.
Am I missing? Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow ahead of him. Would you put Tua?
I don't know. I think that's the closest comp. I think Tua and Purdy are, I think 50. If you divided the population, you get half would want Purdy, half would want
Tua. Rodgers would go. I think
those other guys, the majority go the other guy.
I think people would take Dak over Purdy.
Yeah, no, he's still majority.
Okay, above. I mean, Rodgers obviously with his, he's the best healer of all time. He's coming back this year. Did you know? I'm surprised there's not a report today about his in-depth progress he's making. So
but
yeah,
how about, 10th, let's ask the question that very few people have asked, Geoff. How about this then? Fine, Brock Purdy is a little above average, and on
but he's playing
most
great
other
this
good
year.
teams,
well, who cares?
Right. So, but what if you take some of those guys who are considered better than him and put them into the system in San Francisco and ask them to win? Do they play as well? Because maybe there's something about the fit and the humility and the knowing of the role and the vibes with all those weapons.
Let me explain. Yeah. So I saw a tweet, I think you might have sent it over, that Brock Purdy is 16-0 when everyone's healthy on the team, right? Okay. That's not a realistic thing. It's not a realistic thing that everyone's healthy all the time. And so those quarterbacks can win without Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams in the game. They can win without Deebo Samuel playing a week. They can win without Christian McCaffrey playing a week. It feels in the Niners, if they are out a Deebo, a McCaffrey, a Trent Williams, like that's it for Purdy. Because we've seen this year, when those guys weren't in there, the offense looked completely different. I mean, look, I'm not saying the Chiefs are playing great offense right now. They do have Travis Kelce. But, like, they have – do you think Brock Purdy is scoring any points with Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, MVS, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Justin Watson? Like, no, he's scoring no points. So, again, I think Brock Purdy is outstanding. I think he might be the favorite for the MVP right now. I know the odds might say so. Jalen Hurts will be in there. Patrick, all the usual suspects will be in that discussion. But he's playing great. I don't think we have to qualify it by saying the discussion we basically had right now. He's playing well. Niners look incredible. They beat Bryce out the Cowboys too. But the problem is, as we're talking right now, they're not even the 1 seed right now. There's no guarantee they'll be the 2 seed with the way the Lions are playing. So you might have to go on the road for two games in the playoffs, which it can be done, but harder to do. So they're the favorite in the NFC for now. But look, I think the Eagles, if they play them in the playoffs, would be very competitive in that game.
All right, then before we get to your Chiefs, let's talk about those Lions and the value of home field in general. Because I stayed away from that Eagles game thinking, I don't understand. The Eagles just keep on winning games. They've won 90% of their games over the last 2 seasons. Yeah. Jalen Hurts looks great. Yeah, they're at home, and that's a awful place to play. I don't understand how they were the dog at home, even against maybe the other best team in the conference. So does home field really matter anymore? Like, it's one thing when you used to, like, guys used to ride around in buses and stay in Hotel Sixes. Like, these guys are living 5-star lives, and every stadium is a luxury suite, meets a mall. Like, it's not as ugly as it used to be. Does it make as much of a difference?
Well, the Vegas people that set numbers would say no, that they have, it used to be standard 3 points, not anymore. It's like 2 points or 1.5 points. No,
Okay.
I think that, look, it depends where Arrowhead Stadium is pretty still intimidating. Like, it's hard to play there.
Yeah.
That's a hard place to go in January with the weather and win a football game when the Chiefs are playing good football. So I think it matters in some of those stadiums. Otherwise, I don't think it matters as much.
All right. Well, evidently it still matters up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where your boys took the trip along with their favorite fan, Taylor Swift, and they got handed a big ol' L. And yeah, Kelsey doesn't look like himself, and Pat
Was she
didn't do
there?
anything special. Yeah, she was there.
I didn't see.
Come on, Geoff.
Oh, good.
Stay with
I'm
the
surprised
news.
my wife. I'm
Oh,
surprised
yeah.
my wife didn't like
She
bombard
was
me
there.
with comments with Taylor Swift. Oh, good. Okay, she's Doctor. Isn't she on tour?
Maybe she's touring in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I don't know why she was there. I saw, maybe it's AI. Maybe the robots have already taken over, Geoff. I think she was there. All I know is the Chiefs don't look good. We keep trying to tell ourselves they found their receiver, and then the next week, nothing happens with that guy, whoever it was the week before. Kelsey does not look as good as he usually does. No, I'm not worried. No, I'm not falling for it. I know you aren't either. But we said the offense will catch up to the defense. It hasn't.
My takeaway from last night is the Packers just played better. It's that simple. They
Okay.
played better than the Chiefs. The Packers look really well right now. They have a young offense. They're riding to form with more reps. The fact is they just beat the Chiefs. It's pretty simple. Like, it's a straightforward recap. They played better than them. They moved the ball better. They had less penalties. And we could talk about their officials. I don't really care. In my opinion, the Chiefs got beat no matter what. They played a cleaner game. They didn't make as many mistakes. They didn't make as many crippling penalties. The thing about the Chiefs right now, Gabe, is for so many years, they could afford a negative play on offense and then just come right back and erase it. They can't do that anymore. You get a holding, drive is derailed. Even a false start, behind the six, drive is derailed. A drop pass, a bad throw, drive, absolutely derailed. And that's where they're at right now, is they don't have any margin for error. You go you drive in the red zone twice, Gabe, and score no touchdowns, that's going to cost you the game. In previous years, it never cost them the game. But now it does, because their offense is just not crisp. And look, even MVS dropped another pass. Like, it's sort of a snowball effect where I mentioned this before. Bad offense typically is not one player screwing up all the time. It's every player taking their turn. And that's what's happening in Kansas City right now, where Mahomes has a pass that isn't great. The right guard messes up. The wide receiver runs a wrong route. Another wide receiver drops the ball. The left guard gives up a holding. It's just this constant cycle. Now, the positive, I think, and there's really, if you lose, not a positive, is like last year this time they lost the Bengals in Cincinnati and then won every game and won the Super Bowl. So, they've shown the ability to turn on at the end, but I don't think this is the same team we've seen in the past. I don't think they just turn on at the end. I really think they're in trouble right now. But the AFC playoffs right now feature a bunch of teams that I'm not sure the Chiefs, as of right now, are that afraid of. You ready? It's Tua, 0 playoff wins who they've beaten before. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Their strength of schedule this season is the worst in the NFL. They have the easiest strength of schedule so far this year. And they beat, we've talked about this before, they beat the crap out of bad teams, right? They did again this weekend. The Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson's won a playoff game before, so he's a little more scary in my opinion. Jacksonville, Chiefs beat this season, but also Trevor Lawrence has won a playoff game. Below them, the Chiefs, the 4 division winners, Steelers, Browns, Colts, Texans, Broncos, Bills, Bengals, Chargers, Raiders. The Bills obviously can get back into things, make it difficult. Houston Texans are spicy because they have Stroud. They have an opportunity to just to I think to be in a lot of games. So I think they'll could be okay because of the AFC this season. but I don't know, man. I keep saying they're going to be okay, and they haven't been.
Yeah. I got to be honest. I think it's time to start recognizing that the Dolphins are not just a gimmick. I mean, it's not like they're a Big 12 team piling up points. They're playing NFL teams, and they keep doing this. And you said Tyreek might be the MVP. I saw a stat, he averages like 40-something yards receiving in the first quarter and then 20 and 30 in the second and third. He only averages 7 yards receiving in the fourth quarter, not because he isn't clutch or whatever, because he barely plays, because they're always blowing everyone out. Like, I think the Dolphins need to scare you and Chiefs fans a little more than I currently hear. I get it, to a postseason record, but yeah, I don't know, man. That coach and the glasses and the swag, all that stuff, I'm starting to fall for it, I think.
I'm not yet. Beat someone with a winning record. Come on.
All right. Well, that was quick and easy to dismiss. Why don't we take a quick break? We got to come back, and by the way, even if you're a little too heavy on the Chiefs, you're very objective on the rest of this league, and you're a winner. You made me some money last week, and I'd like to hear about your plans for this week. Yeah,
we'll
recap that.
I hit Prize Picks. By the way, Matt and I were 4-1. We're like having the best season we ever had.
Okay, so let's give everyone a chance to go find a pen or get your notes app open. We got to write some stuff down when we come back from break, because we're going to make you some money. All right, so
let's do it.
If you're watching live, take a quick break here, and if you're listening, here comes your ad.
We're back. I got a call during the show from a connected person who knows some Portal news. I'm excited. Got some. We'll see what happens. See what happens after the show. We'll tease some Portal news. Oh, dude, I'm like, the Portal stuff. I know it's not for some people, but obviously in my job of covering college sports, it spawned a whole new industry, like an entire new industry of people come. Coaching staffs have people that are now in charge of the portal. There's people at 24/7 on 3, like they just do portal all day. It's crazy, man. The tampering behind the scenes. Oh, it's so much fun. I love it so much. And what's so much fun for us is doing Prize Picks for Monday Night Football. And tonight we will do a square entry. Use the promo code GSSY for $100 match deposit. You pick 2 to 6 players, and you choose if they'll go more or less than their projections, their Prize Pick projections. I typically do 3. We'll do 3 again, Gabe, because that's what I like to do. And look, the Jaguars at times look very good, other times don't. But tonight, it's mostly offensively, by the way. They're just like PFF has a stat that has like the least help for a quarterback, like drops and offensive line. It's like Jacksonville. Like they're one of the top 5. They just don't help Trevor Lawrence. We don't have to worry about that tonight because they're playing a Bengals team with no Joe Burrow. And we're seeing, by the way, across the NFL that the backup quarterback story is fun for a week or two, maybe a little bit longer with Dobbs, but eventually, right, it just goes flat down. So here we go. Jake Browning, the backup quarterback for the Bengals, less than 220.5 passing yards. Like I'm taking the less. Like he's not going to throw for a lot of yards. That's not what they're going to do in this offense. Jacksonville's defense is good, and he's not doing that. And I understand they have weapons. I get all that, but not happening. I also have Joe Mixon, less than 46.5 rushing yards. He had, I think, 18 last week. When you are one-dimensional, like the Bengals are going to be, everyone's going to think, oh, they're going to run the ball more. So they're going to try to stop the run, Gabe. It's very obvious, right? Like try to stop the run because that is what, you do because they're going to try to run the football. So maybe Browning hits some shots. I don't know, but I have less. The last one, Travis Etienne more than 67.5 rushing yards. The Bengals have allowed a lot of rushing yards in the last 3 weeks. Their defense with injuries and just sort of a little regression this year is not playing as well as they have in the past. And I think Jacksonville, again, with sort of some inconsistencies on offense, has turned to the run game. Etienne has been great this season. I'm looking up right now. The Bengals have allowed the last 3 games 188 on the ground, 157 on the ground, 153 on the ground. So I like the ETN to have more in that situation. That's what I have for my prize picks this week.
All right, I like it. I wouldn't be
You didn't
doing you
like
a service.
you did not like the Jake Browning one. I could see in your face.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I wouldn't be doing you a service if I didn't try to push back a little bit here. So I don't know if the logic totally squares for me with, you're not expecting much of a run game out of Mixon, but also you think Jake Browning stays under 220 and a half or
Yeah, I think they don't. I think they don't score. I don't think they have a lot of yards. That's the point.
Okay, but I mean, can't he have a terrible game, put up 3 picks, never be in it, and still throw the ball for 250 yards just because he has to in the whole second half? We're talking about yards, not points. I mean, he might just throw a bunch of yards.
I mean, it feels unlikely, but I mean, certainly the quarterback unders stink at times because you have garbage time to account for. But I think some of these quarterbacks are so bad, garbage time doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
They can't do it.
And I mean, to argue with myself here, you are also betting on the Jags run game, which is going to eat some clock, which is going to keep the ball out of their hands, which is going to cut down on the amount of garbage time yards that they throw for. So I guess in the end, they all fit together nicely. It's a pretty good square.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to watching this game tonight. It is this time of year, though, gets like it's a lot of football, like all crammed into one. It's a lot happening at once.
Yeah. Well, we left out a few topics we could have gotten to.
It's a lot of football. It's hard to watch all the football that you have to watch, college and NFL this time of year. Whew.
Yeah.
It's a beast.
Can we just agree that the Patriots have never looked this bad and it's great to watch?
Oh, yes. They've lost 3 straight games where they have not allowed more than 10 points. It's like your dream.
I mean, it's proof that being a stubborn crank who doesn't want to accept the reality of the future of the NFL has finally bitten Bill Belichick in the ass.
But then when he goes to the Chargers, you're going to have a rough go of it.
I'm not going to be a Chargers fan. I'm going to be a fan of Caleb wherever he ends up. If it's the Jets, I might even consider going back to them. But I will not be a Patriots fan. Yeah.
No Patriots. No, you mean Belichick fan. Or if Caleb wouldn't go to the Patriots.
I'm never a Patriots fan, and I won't be a fan of any team that Bill Belichick or Tom Brady ends up with. I can make exceptions for some of the other contributors over the years. Who cares? What, am I going to keep track of every offensive lineman who ever played for the Patriots? No. But I couldn't root for that quarterback, and I couldn't root for that coach.
Okay. I'm looking forward to the day when you announce your podcast partnership with Tom Brady, though. So it's happening. It's happening soon.
Don't you think he does his due diligence? Don't you think before hiring me as his co-host, he would do a little research and find out some of the nasty things I've said?
I hired you, and you were and still are a USC fan. So
but I hadn't ever said nasty things about the Oregon Ducks or you, Geoff. I never did that.
That's fair. I'll give you that at least. So no Tom Brady. All right, guys. Another one in the books. Another Monday. Another great weekend of NFL action. We'll be back next week to break it all down. But first, next Friday, that should be Thursday this week. On Thursday, we'll get you previewed for the NFL action of the week. And we're 4-1 this past week. So I think we're at 58% now for the season, somewhere around there. So a good year so far. We'll keep it going. Hope you guys enjoy the game tonight. We'll talk to you on Thursday.